Are people really getting smarter in this generation?
There's been a lot.
Well, that's a good question. We certainly have heard
these particular scrolls, especially since
has
the
increased
publication of
in this era of human
20-plus years
society
ago.
and civilization.
And how do we
Let's go back and look at a few things before
the
we
different
rush
books
to judgment.
and the different perspectives?
Number one,
Michael Bajan,
the type
newspaper
of knowledge
reporter,
that each culture
in his book, The
endeavors
Dead
to
Sea Scrolls
uncover is
Deception,
somewhat different
tries to
because
point out
the
and
issues
allege that
in
there's a
each
great
age
conspiracy
is
by
defined
the Roman
according
Catholic
to the
Church to cover up
generations
the scrolls.
who
But how could that
interpret
be?
them.
The
Number
international scroll
Number
community
two,
of
we
Allegro
do not
and
know
other great scholars,
how
such as
smart
Dr.
many ancient
Schlesinger,
peoples were, because
were never
99
part of the Vatican
58% or more
efforts.
of their
That's how
knowledge
easy a lot of these
doesn't exist
things
in
can
our
be dislodged
world anymore
and pointed
So,
out to
how
be
do
the
we
propaganda
compare a known
in which
with
they
an
have
unknown?
always been.
Number
But
three,
what about the scrolls in the Bible?
we can only
they are
take
supposed
the
to
knowledge
undergird the New Testament.
from our
how could
level
that
of
be? Because, as
understanding
Dr. Mack has
and
pointed
begin to
out
work
in
with
his
them.
book, A Crack in the Jar,
some of the
that
informational
there
graphs
isn't
look
even
like
a New
this.
Testament reference
From
there
Jesus and
that
the
can
Apostle
be directly
Paul's
pulled, other than
of
theological
roughly
echoes
2,000 years
that found
ago
their way
in Judea,
into the New
for
Testament.
human
because
knowledge
these things
to be
were
communicated
known.
in the ancient world
One of my mentors,
by letters
Dr.
and
Charles
friendships
Dorothy,
and
once said
oral
in
traditions.
his
It
PhD
took
program at Claremont Divinity
1,500
School
years to
and
the
theological
time of
graduate
Columbus
school
that for human
Dr.
knowledge
Sanders,
to double.
then James Sanders.
Now,
who
this
wrote
is
the,
based on
treatise
that
on,
ships didn't change
Torah
very
Christ
much.
Story.
We
that
were still,
They looked throughout the
you
Dead
know,
Sea
without
Scrolls to find
electricity
over and over
you
again.
know, we lived
Did they ever
pretty much
say
the way
anything
the ancients
positive
had lived
about the
for
temple
centuries.
oblations going
So
on
knowledge
in
grew
Jerusalem? And the answer
with
was an
separate
emphatic
communities
no.
a lot slower than it does today.
How critical
with
we
mass
can be
communication.
Of
But
the
let us continue.
so-called
Then,
enemies of
from
our faith,
the
who
days of
polemically
Columbus,
we can teach against.
It took
With or
another
without
300
foundation.
years
Yet
with the
Christianity
advent of the
and
movable printing
The
press
Dead Sea Scroll community
for
at
human
Qumran
knowledge to double
both teach that the
by
spirit
1850,
of Judaism
just about the time
was
of
indeed
the
more
Millerite
important
and
than the
the
letter
revolutionary
as far as worship
religious
is concerned.
movements took place here
So,
in North America.
What do we do?
Well, then it took 50
with all
years.
of this
Then we
data?
were roughly at 1900, and look
Potter
what
and
just
others tried
happened
to, in the 1950s,
in the years
make
preceding
Jesus
the
an
Civil
Essene due
War.
to these connections.
When we study
And
the
if
steam
one
engine that
looks
started
at the
with
material
Fulton,
in a
1769,
cursory
if
manner,
you want to go back that far, and
one
begin
could
the,
see, especially
of course,
in the Gospel
mechanical
of John,
revolution.
a great deal
by
of
the
similarity
end of the 1830s,
between
they were working
Ioannis
with,
or Juan or
currents
John,
to send through wires,
and
then
of course the
ultimately
Essene community.
telegraph,
But
and of course by 1875,
since then, with the work
Alexander
of modern
Graham
scholars, a
Bell
lot
married
of those
that
theories
technology, of
have
course,
been dislodged
into the
and
telephone with a
disproven.
microphone.
Norman Parrott
And then, of
and other
course,
scholars have
by
suggested that these
1895,
documents
they were sending
were really of the
radio
Sadducean
signals for more
belief,
than a mile
who
in
believed
Italy.
in the first 5
And
books
of course, you had the great
the
Tesla
Old
begin
Testament
to challenge
Torah,
Edison,
but
and of course, the fight
they didn't
over
believe in the
AC
prophets or
DC
what we
theory
would term as the
was,
writings,
of course,
to Vima
at a great pitch.
but
at
they
that
did
time.
believe in the Torah.
And overnight,
Of course,
from a horse
were
and buggy
the Sadducees, and they were Sadducees,
westward
the
moving
joke says,
culture
because they
to the
didn't
modern age
believe
with
in the
Henry
law
Ford
or gospel. Well,
and
that's something we
Jerry
read
Reed used to sing,
into
"Lord,
their
Mr. Ford,
scenario.
what have
But
you done?"
back to
you
the
know,
scrolls.
in his
Since
lament
then,
about the
Huntington
automobile.
Library But from that moment
And
on,
others
of course,
have shown
we
the
had
scrolls
AM
in
radio in
various sites, just
1906,
like they did the King
with
Tut
full-time
exhibit
radio stations
throughout the USA.
by
And,
1920,
of course,
and the legendary
all of the scrolls with the copper
KDKA
scroll
Pittsburgh,
and the war scroll,
which is still on
and
the
others
air
have been
today.
permanently united
And
over
lo and behold,
several
by the late
releases.
20s, they were experimenting with
All
television.
known
Armstrong
scrolls
invented
are
the
put
FM modulated radio
the
wave, and of
shrine
course,
in
then they could clean
Jerusalem.
up the television
There are no known
from
scrolls
amplitude modulation
that are out
and
there that are unknown to
modulate
the International Scroll Committee.
with a 6
and so there's no
kilohertz
secrets.
bandwidth, part FM and part
And
AM,
yet
and then
various attempts
synchronize
from
the signal,
paperback
and you could
writers,
have
I'm not
video
referring to
and
the Beatles
audio.
tune
They were
there,
doing this
keep
in Britain
trying
in
to
1935.
allege that there has been
And then,
a
of course,
cover-up
by
with
1942,
no proof
the early
whatsoever.
elements of the computer
People will
began
believe
to
anything. There's a
be
sucker born
developed
every
from
minute,
mechanical
someone has
computations.
said. And yet
And on things
there
went.
are
Jet
continuing
engines,
publications from
the
Czech
Nazis
publications
developed
and many others to suggest
the
that a
magnetic
cover-up
tape scenario.
with the 18
We developed the
mile
wire
long Vatican
recorder
library
by the Chicago Company,
and their
way back
huge catalogs
in the
that go back
1920s.
to the early patristic
And these were the
period
early
has been
cockpit
aware of the
type
cover-up for
recorders
centuries.
during World War II.
Well, you can allege that,
and so
but proving
all of a
it
sudden,
is
after
another matter.
the war,
So,
with the
do the
development
scrolls
of
contain
sonar
issues?
technology,
Whether they're the copper scroll,
then
of Daniel, or
lasers,
the
and then of
long
course
Habakkuk
the bomb.
scroll
In
that's
1945
24 feet
was developed.
long that
Then
talks about
hydrogen
the
bombs
wicked
and
priest,
everything at
Barbara Thiering
lightning
and others,
speed began
bless
to
their
be
hearts, have
developed.
tried
Then,
to
of
decode
course,
the wicked
information
priest.
could be sent all
But
over
as
the
near
world
as we can
after
tell, it was someone
1957,
known
not only
to the
through phone
Qumanian
and network
community who
lines,
they saw
which had been the
as
case
a
since
local
1938,
threat.
but
We do not
was
know
now
who
done
the
through
wicked
satellites, which
priest
began with
was.
Sputnik
Some
in
have even said it's
1957.
Jesus of all people.
But back to
What a
our human
ridiculous assertion.
knowledge equation.
Because we do not see
Are people
Jesus
getting smarter?
necessarily.
Well, what
claiming
is
such a
interesting
title other
about
than
that question is
the high priest
it
of the New
assumes
Testament
because the variety
church,
of
even
knowledge
though he
is
did
out there
employ
like
the
never
teaching
before,
techniques of a
that
king,
the
a
average
priest,
Sunday
and
go
a
to
prophet,
meeting person
which certainly did
is
not fit the
smarter
wicked
than
priest
our predecessors
paradigm of
were.
the Habakkuk
And one
scroll.
can really challenge
What
that
other
notion.
mischief
But
from
we
some
must
scholars
be careful.
tried to assert that Jesus
From
wasn't
1900 to
about 30 or
1950,
33 when he died,
knowledge
that he
doubled
was
again.
closer
Then it
to
began to double
70.
every 20
and
years.
therefore which
Then
would
by
be an attempt to
1980,
disprove the resurrection.
with
However,
the advent
remember, once
of
again, as Dr.
not
Mack
quite the
points
personal
out,
computer, we
that there
weren't
are
quite
no
there yet,
New Testament references
with the internet at
directly
home. But
in any
just
of
before
the scrolls.
the internet was developed,
Well, what about the Isaiah
knowledge
scroll that
was
Dr.
doubling
Nibley
in the academic
many
journals
have
every
ostensively
4
written about?
months. You could not put a
Well,
set of
it's
commentaries
in two
out
parts.
there
There's
before
the
they
original
were
scroll,
simply
and there is
outdated.
what the
Now,
editors
of
and
course,
commentators
with the
have said
personal
about it.
computer
There
and
is some
the
tension
internet,
between
and of
those
course
two scrolls.
iPods and so
But
many other
originally,
modern
the Isaiah
devices,
scroll-
too numerous
This does not
to
mean
even
or imply
consider
that all
to
of the
mention
Dead
here.
Sea Scrolls
Then
are in perfect
knowledge
agreement
is, of course,
in
being
regards to their
transmitted
scribal
by
entries,
trillions and trillions
nor does it
of little
imply
sound
that
bites over the
all of
World
the
Wide Web
readings
from
even
universities
are redacted
and
back into the
theological and
text
every other
with
type of
complete
academic
textual
journal
harmony.
possible.
No, there
and
is
yet,
some
folks, it is sad
subjectivity
to
there
say
that
our people are
obviously
reading
is
less.
different between the
The
various
average person
and the
who
copper
goes to
scroll
church
in
says the
references
Pew
to
Study less
Isaiah.
than 4%
One of them is more
are
of
daily
the
reading
story
the biblical text.
in the 53rd
So if we
chapter
lose
of
our
Isaiah.
story,
There are some
what have we got
17
to share with
differences, but they're
anybody?
minor in
What theological
textual
questions
readings
can we
Most of
even
the
attempt
differences
to answer
come out of the
unless we're
redacted
willing
text
to
where
do deep
scribal
study and
notes have found their
confront
way into the main
the
body of
apologists
textual
who on a
apparatus,
daily
and
basis are
other
challenging
readings
the very
have been
framework
suggested.
of Christianity.
So when we say the unity of
and it's
Isaiah,
not just Christianity,
was in perfect
but
accord, that's
Western
an overstatement
values.
by the conservatives.
And
but
Western
the liberals are
society
also in error
right along
when
with
they fire back
that particular
and say,
paradigm.
well, the book is in total.
Our SAT scores in America
disarray
are
and
down.
disunity,
Rather than use a
especially where
vocabulary of
Isaiah is
4,000
concerned.
words, the
That
average
is a
American
complete,
improperly
fabrication.
uses
Because
about
we need to
300
read the
words.
scrolls
We're barely above the
within
ghetto
context that
in our
the
use
community
of our
whom
own
one intended them
language.
to be understood. Now that isn't always
Just go back and
easily
listen to the
ascertained.
speeches
But
of an
now
Al Smith
we've
or an
got
Adlai
scholars,
Stevenson.
such as
Listen
lovely
to the
Barbara
superlatives.
Deering,
Listen to the
and,
critical
many
analyzation
others,
that
Dr.
went
Karen
on
King,
as people
suggest that
debated
a great
in Oxford
Gnostic
and Cambridge.
overlay
Some debates in
spread
ancient
from the
Greece
Dead Sea
lasted
Scrolls
for more than
throughout
a
the New
decade
Testament.
over one word.
Therefore,
It's
Jesus,
because
could
they
have
wanted
died,
to
as
play out
Barbara
the
Deering
scenario
says,
with
at the old
a
age of
dramatic
the
type
70s or
theatrical
172 or,
rhetorical
somewhere
analysis
circa that
that
event.
would
And
just absolutely
therefore, it's an
lose
attempt to say,
most of us
well, the
in this
resurrection
day and
was
age.
just invented by New Testament writers.
Now, the vocabulary
and
changes.
Elaine Pagel's and
Things
Karen
like
King's
spreadsheets
assertion
and
that
others.
the New
Of
Testament
course, we would
has
not
a
have
strong
used
Gnostic
as little as
underpinning,
40 years
and therefore
ago.
we can insert
You'd say,
upon
well, I'm not
the
in a hotel,
writings
and
of
we know the
Philip
computer age
and
has
the
also
Apocalypse
helped
of
bring
Peter
English
and
to
other
be the
documents
international
which come to us
language.
from Gnostic
We
and
also
Coptic writings
can tell as
from
you watch
Egypt,
foreign
whose
newscasts
gospel
that oftentimes
of
they are
Mark
more
was,
eloquent
of course,
than their
aimed
American
at,
counterparts
as
because they're
a
writing from a
refutation
standpoint
against
of
some
journalism
of those
and
teachings
not
in
corporate
the New
ratings.
Testament corpus of
I've
literature,
heard
or
people
in the
with
synoptic
6 years
traditions,
of college
as
at
we
master's
now
level
have them.
who absolutely
So
cannot
these things
form
are
a
of
sentence.
great scholarly importance.
It'd be humorous
to
if
us
it wasn't
in the
tragic.
modern community.
Just the basic skill
Karen
sets
King
that
and Elaine
used to be
Pagels
known 40
and
years
Barbara
ago
Deering
about
and others
American
are
history,
marvelous in
the
showing us
Constitution,
that the New
and
Testament
civics
canon
are no longer
may
known
have
by
indeed
most
have been
young
open
people.
to the New
Mechanical
Testament
skill
believers,
sets, practical
rather than
skill
a
sets
closed
on how to
document,
work on
as our
the
Sunday
devices
schools
and repair
have
them in your
taught us
houses that
in
most
the
people on the
formation
farm
years of
who
our
grew up,
development of
even in
faith.
city life,
So a more
learned how
realistic
to have
assessment,
those
they are
trade type
certainly
skills are
helping
vastly
the
diminishing
scholarly community
in lieu
to
of
find,
computer
but
skills.
as far as some of their ridiculous claims,
So in other words, we're being
about
funneled
Christianity being
into
Gnostic,
just a
or
few
the Dead Sea
basic
Scrolls being
directions
Gnostic,
in our modern culture.
or
the
the
breadth
canon,
of the
just
classical
as Bart Ehrman
educational model is
not having a
gone
bottom
for
line of
almost a
interpretation
trade school
are, of
type
course,
of an approach
scholarly
across
fallacies.
the board. So we are
All one
losing
has to do is
context
read the
in
documents
this sound
for
bite
themselves,
generation.
and they can see the
Over and
vast
over again, you
differences
hear people
of
say, well, we're
theological
using more of our
and
brains
literary
now.
style.
But if they would
And
really
you can see
study
that the same
the
communities
neural
certainly
surgical
did not
type of
originate these
topics that
documents.
are
We need to read them
mapped
in, their
in the
original
brain,
context
what we notice
and
here
understand
is
that proto-Gnosticism
that we're using more
didn't even
parts of the
exist at
brain.
time
It's not
of
true
the
we only
gathering
use
of the War
10%.
Scrolls in
We use
Qumran
all
so many
different
years
parts
ago.
of the brain where the
So we need to
lights,
keep things
you know,
within the particular
are tracked
era
all
and
over the
context
brain,
and
but we're only
community,
using a
as
small
James
percentage
Sanders
of it
alleges,
at any one
and then
given
go back
time.
and understand them
So once
for the
again,
textual witnesses
how do we
that they
define
provide us. This
whether or
is
not
Father
we're
Tom
smarter
Roberts
when our
saying,
knowledge base
"Thanks
is
for
different?
listening."
Well, it may be different, but we've lost a lot of